What the former Chief Justice, the retired Chief Justice Mogoeng was talking about was that
there was a deep sense of caring that was demonstrated. How do I put it now? Maybe I should be blunt about it. At a time when there was an issue concerning the Constitutional Court justices and Judge President Hlophe, it was Ray Zondo who said to the heads of courts, absent Judge President Mwepe, who was a member of the JSC at the time, representing the judges president. He said, people, this thing is going to hurt the judiciary more than you can imagine. We've got to demonstrate leadership here and intervene. The meeting of the heads of courts was held at the Labour Court because at the time he was the judge president of the Labour Court. We were there. And the purpose of the meeting was to sit down and reflect on the possibility of facilitating some kind of an agreement or mediating so that this thing could possibly come to an end. And Judge President Somyalo and I were elected by the heads of courts. I remember approaching then Chief Justice Pius Langa and Deputy Chief Justice Msenek at some conference. I think it was the SADC Forum of Chief Justices, because he had, Judge President Somyalo had mandated me to do so. I said, people, none of you can tell what's going to happen. Can you imagine either both or one of you being hauled before some structure, the JSC structure that would be investigating this thing, and being asked the kind of questions that you could never have anticipated as the topmost and second topmost leader of the judiciary? Isn't there a way of addressing this thing before it puts the judiciary into disrepute? We didn't succeed. We tried to reach out to then Judge President Hlophe. We drew a blank.
what was that when the issue of Judge Hlophe started in 2008, I initiated that as heads of court, we should come together and meet and see how it could be resolved before it could, damage the image of the judiciary, and before maybe it could get out of hand. So we met at the boardroom in the Labour Appeal Court, and we had a discussion, and an agreement was reached that some of us should try and talk to both sides, that is Judge Hlophe and the justices of the Constitutional Court, to try and see whether there could be a way of resolving this matter.
Like what?
Well, basically, at that stage, I mean, now, of course, we know quite a lot now, because there have been litigation. But basically, when you have any dispute, one of the things you want to look at is whether there isn't any misunderstanding and whether the dispute can be resolved without litigation. That's what lawyers do, And that basically what we wanted to do, to say, if this matter can be resolved, let's explore that, because if there's going to be litigation, you can imagine, that's what we had in mind at the time. You can imagine you will have a Chief Justice, a Deputy Chief Justice, a Judge President, all being cross-examined in a lengthy hearing that might ultimately damage the judiciary. So if there is a way of resolving it amicably, finding out, even if we use mediation, let's explore that. That's what we wanted to do. But it did not happen because Judge Hlophe didn't cooperate. It was a missed opportunity because maybe a resolution may have been found. Obviously, when it's mediation, or even negotiation, any settlement would have to be a settlement that is acceptable to both parties.
Because, he feels deeply aggrieved by the outcome now.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. But, but that's what we wanted to do. we wanted to try and resolve it. And of course, mediation is can be quite helpful in any dispute.
Are you angry for the impeachment process?
I would be lying if I say I celebrated it, because I had done absolutely nothing wrong.
We'll come to that in a moment. Are you angry as a person?
Yes, because of how I was treated.
Dr. Hlophe, I'm sure you have a rich history of the legal process.
Yes.
And processes in all three cases, including Advocate Mkhwebane, including the former judge, impeached judge, Nkola Mothathi, and yourself. Processes were followed.
Yes.
And for a process having followed, they arrived at a particular conclusion.
That's right.
Are you now trying to rewrite those processes when you were even given an opportunity to actually reflect on your position in terms of those allegations that you faced at the time?
Right. Well, in my case specifically, what had happened was this. We challenged the processes and how the Judicial Service Commission operated. We challenged even the composition of the Judicial Service Commission. We even brought an appeal to challenge the decision by President Cyril Ramaphosa to suspend me. That matter is still pending in Gauteng. We're not even allocated a date for that appeal. In one matter, because they withdrew funding. As a result of withdrawing funding, I could not prosecute the appeal. This is why one of the grounds that we use, we're saying the impeachment process by Parliament was premature because everything was pending before the courts, including the Constitutional Court.
But you've been to various courts.
Yes.
And one way or the other, you won cases, but at a different level, the authorities won that. Do you not feel that it's time to let it go?
Certainly, far from it. It raises fundamental issues of constitutional law. When I joined the judiciary 29 years ago, that's when I was appointed as a judge, I believed that judges were permanent. But a lot of people now, after witnessing what happened to me, you wake up, you're a judge. When you go to bed, you are no longer a judge. And I think the nation must know this, when I was dismissed, I was just kicked out of office like a dog.
How so?
Well, I will explain to you. For instance, the acting deputy judge president moved into my office. I still had my furniture in the office and my books and everything else. She walked into my office without even referring to me, right? I was still the rightful user of that office. It doesn't happen anywhere in the world.
Was it before the impeachment of the National Assembly?
It was before the impeachment when I was still on suspension, right? It's unheard of, and she got away with that.
So now you are in Parliament.
Yes, I'm in Parliament.
You got a pending appeal on the impeachment process.
That's right.
If you had to win it, what then happens?
Well, the appeal, remember, we're appealing. There are issues, fundamental issues of constitutional law that are raised. Can you, for example, justify a judge on the strength of a comment that the judge made extrajudiciary? All over the country, when you look at decided cases, it doesn't happen.